Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Life Unscripted Podcast with Rosabel. How are you, Reid?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. How are you doing today, Rosabel?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thank you again. Reid here, my co-host. So, Reid, I have a question for you.
Husband.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, Reid, what would you do if you knew a murder was about to happen and everyone else did too, but no one stopped it?
Well, it would be a question of morality. I mean, do I tell the authorities? The answer would be yes, because today's day and age, being implicit with a crime, even if you were not going to participate in it, but knowing of it and being able to prevent it, you definitely want to tell someone who's in that position.
So today I want to talk about a novel. It's called Chronicles of a Death Foretold by Gabriel García Márquez. It was published in 1981, and it's definitely a masterpiece of magical realism. So I chose this novel, not necessarily because of my favorite one, but because one of the things is I happen to know or met at least once one of the protagonists of one of the main characters. This is actually a life. So basically, this novel has facts and fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has themes like honor, faith, collective guilt, the whole thing. There's a brief. The story goes actually that it's a real life murder, and it again that inspired the novel. And again, by a real life murder, and it occurred in a neighboring town of my hometown. But it happened, of course, many, many years prior to me being born. It was actually 1951.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, written by Gabriel García Márquez, which happens to know the person that this happened to. Apparently, they were actually friends that kind of played together and whatnot. And so, have you read the book by any chance?
I saw the summary, read the summary, and yeah.
Okay. So, so Gabriel García Márquez, again, famous journalist, novelist. He wrote 100 Years of Solitude. There's actually a Netflix series going on right now that we started watching the other day. We need to finish watching it, and maybe we'll talk about it some more. But anyways, I'm going to tell you that the real names of the person, because everybody in Colombia and everybody knows it's actually Cayetano Gentil, but in the novel it's actually San Roman, Bayardo San Roman, right? But so basically what happened was here, Santiago is the one who ended up being murdered, right? So he was a 27-year-old medical student, right? And he was accused of deflowering Margarita Chica, which that's the real name of the person that, this happened to. And I actually happened to get to know her. My mom, she actually lived in our neighborhood. She passed away many, many years ago, but I remember being around 9 years old or so. My mom kind of took me, to go meet her and whatnot. So apparently, I don't know, maybe she was 21, 22. And then she got married to this apparently, wealthy man that came into town. And then in the book, it says she was from a socially prominent family that I don't know. But again, the book mixes fact and fiction. So, and then in the context of Colombian society at the time, this was considered a grave offense. I mean, at the son or the family. And Margarita had two brothers. Their real names were Victor and Joaquin Chica. And they basically said they felt obligated to restore their family's honor, right? So they literally went around in that town and they openly announced they intend to kill Cayetano to avenge their sister. So it will be, Santiago Nazares, right?
Okay.
To avenge their sister's dishonor. And then the townspeople kind of, I don't know, they said they did little to stop the murder, I guess, because they were assuming it was a threat, or perhaps they didn't want to interfere in a matter of honor. It was, I think this was passive complicity, mirrors the whole central theme of the novel. The brothers eventually confronted Cayetano, Santiago, on a public street and stab him to death, of course, fulfilling their war of revenge. So, of course, the murder shocked the community, but it was also seen as a very unfortunate and necessary act under the strict cultural codes of honor that was prevalent at the time. So again, small Colombian town where everybody knows each other. The event actually takes place after the wedding. In this case, in the book, her name is Angela Vicario and Bayardo San Roman. So we know that her brothers, again, they need to restore the family's honor. Angela. So here's what happened. And they also have a movie about it. It's like 1987 movie, 87 movie. It's in Spanish. I couldn't find any subtitles in English. Maybe you could watch it. You can barely see it because of it's not the best. But basically what actually happens is they're seen celebrating, they're having this great wedding. And then apparently during the wedding night, he finds out that she's not virgin, and then he literally takes her to the mom. It's like, here's your daughter. Is that funny?
Well, just the transaction's like, ugh, I thought I was getting something brand new, but I don't want it. It's used.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, actually, that's pretty much what the guys say. In fact, they interview him. It's horrible, to hear that. But he's 90. I don't know. I think he's still alive, 96, 97 years old, and he literally said it that way. It's like, I think he also mentioned the fact that he felt betrayed because he overheard a conversation of Margarita actually and her mom, or friends or somebody saying, well, that's interesting because when did he hear the conversation? Or maybe that was something that he learned after the fact. But apparently they were talking about how she can, do something to make him believe that I don't know how that works. But anyways, what goes even more interesting is the fact that even until today, I don't think that nobody ever knows, who apparently was the guy.
Well, I know. I mean, if you could go back and ask her that question as a curious 9-year-old.
I don't think I've read the book at the time necessarily. I am actually glad my mom did not tell me what it was about. She just said, hey, we're going to meet someone, something about a book. Because had she told me what it's about, believe me, curious 9-year-old, hey, Miss Margarita, do you? I probably would have asked her, But anyways, so what is actually also another interesting thing about that book is the fact that also Gabriel García Márquez says the way he starts the book, it starts, basically saying, Santiago Nazar woke up at 5:30 in the morning, the day that he was going to get murdered or something. So in other words, from the beginning, people already know he's going to get murdered. That way. And they ask him, why did you do that? And he said, because I knew that if I just start telling the story, and then I tell the story at the end that he gets killed, people probably just going to go to the end of the book and they will look at it and be like, so basically the story becomes more about the why, the how, and not about what, And then, so the buildup of the murder is told through like flashbacks and different interviews that go into the town. But definitely the people's in action. There's some things that you'll see. It's so interesting when they take a book and they make a book into a movie, and you see some things here and there. I don't know if I can't remember if it's in book, but apparently there was kind of like a maid, or I don't know. I don't think it was a slave because it's some sort of like a maid that lived in Santiago's house, right? And then the mom of the maid was there, but later on, apparently it is that how would I say this? I guess there were two maids, the mom and the daughter, right? And then this lady apparently happened to have relationships with Santiago's dad. So I'm not sure if that girl was actually product of that relationship. And then the mom was always like watching, that Santiago was not going to do that. So that tells me right there was this Santiago known as some, kid that is always going around. I mean, I guess it would have been easier to say he's the one who did it or some sort of, too.
Oh yeah.
So anyways, so again, I mean, how do we know if he's guilty, right?
I don't know. I just had a thought though. I mean, look at, you said the author of the book was also friends with Santiago, right?
Yes. No, not with Santiago. He was friend. Well, that's very interesting. For what I understand, that he was friends with the man that married Margarita.
Mm.
Yes, that's how he became to tell the story, because it's almost like, hey, this is a story of something that happened to a friend of mine, kind of thing, and that kind of like shows in the movie where a good friend is coming back from a far away town or something, and he's basically coming back to recount the story of how it happens. But let's think about this. How about that? The brother's justification for the murder, the whole honor, and
Mm-hmm.
how societal expectations, trapped these characters into violent cycles. Tell me, what do you think about that?
Well, when it comes to honor and with violence, I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, even today, you still see a lot of situations like that in the world. Typically not as much in the Western cultures, but those still do exist. Especially when you have arranged marriages, or you have dowry systems, or you have certain religious cultures and customs that are for that. Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Right, right. No, I see what you're saying now. What about the fact that the novel and the whole story suggests that, well, that the death of Santiago is unavoidable, right? I mean, no matter how much information the town has, right?
Mhm.
Now, because otherwise the title will be completely different, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. If it was an unavoidable death, um, which
Unavoidable
it
death.
could have been avoidable if he didn't do it and she just lied, it could have been avoided by her telling the truth. Um, but if he did, then based on the honor system and the culture at the time, it would have been unavoidable. It just would have been a matter of when, not if.
Right. No, totally. What about the people, the complicity? Well, I don't know. I mean, so you'll have to probably, I don't know, read the book and see the movie, to look at the fact, for example, what I was telling you about the maid and that woman, that there was an idea that when so what happens is the people in the town that are hearing this two brothers, they were actually butchers by profession, right?
Mhm.
So they literally were out there with knives, like, hey, we're gonna kill Santiago, we're gonna kill him, of course they don't say why, right? um and so people are like, okay, but they don't know, and they actually apparently did tell the authorities, and I think one of the authorities, somebody came in and took the knives, but come on, they're butchers, they have more than two pairs of knives, right?
Oh yeah.
And so um different people keep trying to tell. I think actually somebody tells the mom, and kind of the mom knows, and everybody's trying to find him, going around, and they can find it. So that also talks about the fact that he always comes through the back door, but that day somehow he comes through the front door, and the mom locked the front door because she thinks the guys are when she hears the people running, the mom locks the front door because she knows he always goes to the back. And then it was just this whole misfortune and whatnot. But it's very interesting, In the novel, it's like told through fragmented narratives, like very like unreliable accounts. Not only that, but apparently they were distracted. They were distracted because there was a big party, of
Mhm.
course, as usual in Colombia. There's always a party for some kind of there's always a celebration of some sort, right?
Oh yeah.
And then there's this big party, whatever, somebody's coming, and they're kind of busy on that stuff. So
I mean, if you think about it, though, when it comes to personal accounts of anything, everyone's going to have a different perspective, no matter what you're looking at. So it's not uncommon to have different points of view and different remembrance of events.
Right. No, everybody's gonna tell their truth in different ways. So again, back to that opening line, and it goes like this. So let's see if I remember. It says, on the day that they were going to kill him, Santiago Nazar got up at 5:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, starting like that. So again, it's definitely, there's already tension there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to say, there have never been a death more foretold. Can you believe that?
Well, here's the question, though. Is what foretold it, though? Why was it foretold? Just because the brothers said they were going to do it? Or because Margarita said that she was no longer a virgin?
No, I think the idea that it was foretold was because everybody knew but the guy who was going to get killed.
Okay,
basically.
so the fact that the brothers were looking for the guy is the reason why it was foretold.
Right. And then that everybody knew. And then the mom knew and everybody. And I guess he found out just like late. But it's interesting, like, especially when you see the movie, like how they are all celebrating. And so Santiago at the next day, he's just like, he has a hangover, from all the. So it's very. And then the guy at the end is like, why are they looking for him? Why are they going to kill me for? So again, and then what do we know about this Angela's or Margarita's, the role in the tragedy, whether did she manipulate the narrative,
Well,
who was she trying to protect? That's what's so interesting.
Well, here's the thing. I would have to say she had to have manipulated it a little bit, because if Santiago really was the person, he might have suspected such a thing if it ever got out. But just the sheer idea that he is surprised at the end, like what is going on.
Right, exactly.
Which would lead me to believe that
he was not guilty.
He wasn't guilty of it.
No.
So.
Yeah, that's what exactly. I think that there's a lot of lack of evidence, that impacts the whole story. Do you think the murder could have been stopped?
Well, it definitely could have been stopped. Depends on how you'd want to stop it, because such a thing of arresting them, okay, that's a temporary solution.
Right.
Then, of course, you could always go down the road of Santiago finding out and then going to get them first. So could it have been stopped? Yes. But in this situation, I think it could have been more just delayed.
Right. What about today's society, issues like honor killings, and tell me what do you know about that?
Well, honor killings don't really exist as much in a Western culture as much. Okay. A lot of times the honor killings in Western culture are coming from, I'd say, more Eastern cultures. So I'll give you one example of something that did happen close to where I grew up. So I've already joined the Army, and there was a situation in one of the apartment buildings where near our hometown. And what it was is, see if I can remember it right, but it was a woman who had either had relations with a man, or she was seeing a man that was outside their culture, and the father did pretty much that same thing. Okay, killed his daughter, and then I think burned the apartment building down, as well as the man. So there's that part. So, and then there's, of course, and he comes to other ones like the dowry system out in India. Again, it's a very patriarchal society. So if you give a dowry, no matter what that is, the woman kind of can't just leave the marriage. And if she does, sometimes those women are badly disfigured. Sometimes they are maimed or killed, just to prevent them from ever seeking another husband again. So there are stuff like that today, as unfortunate as it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's now, didn't you one time tell me the story about some honor killings among somebody in politics.
Oh, are you referring to Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr? Well, yeah, I mean, those are two rivals that were, was it 1804, 1805 is when the actual duel happened. But yeah, Alexander Hamilton, first Secretary of the Treasury, Vice President, and well, he posted something in one of the newspapers that Aaron Burr took as a jab at his honor. So he challenged Alexander Hamilton to a duel. And funny to think about it is, at that time, New York had outlawed dueling, and so did Jersey, but Jersey was a little less strict when it comes to prosecution. So both Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton went over to Jersey, and the duel happened. Aaron Burr got Alexander Hamilton in the stomach, and Alexander Hamilton missed, hit a tree, and 24 hours later, Alexander Hamilton was dead.
Wow. What a story. Yep. What a story.
It's one of the most famous ones when it comes to dueling in this country.
Wow. So how do you think Gabriel García Márquez explores the human nature and morality and culture in this particular story?
Well, thinking about culture, okay, it's kind of two intersections, because the 1951 Colombia, you're talking about predominantly Catholic population, Christianity. But when it comes to honor killings, that's more cultural, not necessarily religious. And of course, it's very significant with the time being as well. So you had a lot of people, even in America at the time, that would relate towards such a thing. So when you start talking about just, I don't know, one of the culture and religion when they meet like that, because most of them would know that it's morality, it's wrong to kill. Okay, they're taught that, they're raised knowing that. But when you start thinking about the deep-rooted cultural aspect of that, it's like,
right,
I have to do it.
No, and think about the role of that collective responsibility. You know, the people in the town. No wonder, you know, if they actually felt guilt. Oh my God, if we would have said something, if we would have, what if this, what if that? But if you think about it, even in today's society, when things do happen, it's just amazing.
Well, I mean, there's a non-confrontational nature that a lot of people have. So, I mean, I don't want to get involved. It's not my business. Or just playing out fear of being hurt in the process.
Right.
So
now that you mentioned that, I was thinking about a couple of days ago, I saw a picture of Daniel Penny, right? Daniel Penny.
Okay.
The Marine that was accused in New York of, I don't know, the killing or the, anyways.
Yeah, the chokehold he did on the subway.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I saw a picture apparently of him back on the subway riding, but this time he was like sitting down and he's just reading a book, and then I don't know if he has headphones or something, but it almost like so interesting. You know, he went back out there. I guess it's a good thing. You know, he, you know, maybe another person would say, "Oh, I'm not gonna ride the subway anymore," you know, or I'm not going to. But it's again the whole idea of if I, you know, intervene in this, you know, would I get hurt? Like you say, would, you know, or worst case scenario, kind of like what happened to him, that he almost got, you know, in jail.
Well, yeah, I mean,
or I don't know.
Intervening sometimes isn't a matter of whether someone should or shouldn't do it. It's just, I look at it as, if you don't and something does happen,
right?
How are you going to feel about that? And can you live with that?
A lot of it is very instinctive. You know, I've been in situations like that where there's no time to think. It just kind of, you feel like you gotta do what you gotta do, you know. But then you also see, it depends how everybody experiences the whole fight or flight response type of thing. Yeah. I've seen people literally just frozen, you know, and don't do it. And again, either way, I guess it's hard. It's hard for someone, you know, to just judge and decide what someone should or shouldn't do, right?
You never really know how you're going to react in a situation like that.
It is definitely not So what would you have done if you were in that town?
Well, in today's day and age, or in 1951?
Well, that's a good question, though. what was it like to be in that town in 19. I mean, I have an idea, not necessarily, but kind of, talk specifically the culturally.
As an
Yeah.
American,
Or maybe
it's the only way I could think about it, because
911. Sure.
well, if you think about, if I was in that town, the first thing I would do is I would want to find out, is this a real threat? Is this something that there's really going on? So I probably want to talk to the brothers.
Right. That's a good, yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is say something to the authorities, and when it's not really a
Right.
thing.
So conciliatory type of thing. Yeah. And that is actually, that's a good idea, to try to find out, hey, what's going on? Why are you trying to kill him? Of course, they wouldn't say, probably, because
I would be not that so much about the reason, the why, but more of, you are okay. Well, maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe
there are other ways to.
And then, of course, if they do, then then of course notify the authorities. Yes, they are planning on doing this, and I mean, it's one of those things where if you intervene and prevent something from happening, such as they said they're going to murder someone,
right?
Now you detain them. Okay, now you actually did commit a crime, so you such as kidnapping a person to stop them from committing a murder. Whereas they didn't actually commit a murder.
Which you don't even know if they were going to be, again, the only way to, so it is definitely difficult. But let me ask you this, Reid, what do you think? Do you think honor is still relevant in this modern society?
Yes. I'd say honor, while it's not as prevalent as it used to be, it's still definitely, it's still in the society. And one thing I'll just tell you is, think about Bo Bergdahl. So I remember sitting down hearing about this, and President Obama is in front of the cameras with his father, and they want to bring him home for a hero's welcome. And next thing you know, the military community was hearing about this, and they were upset. Because the idea of leaving your unit, especially when you're in the middle of Afghanistan, and then of course, soldiers were hurt by that as well. So hurt and killed, just by the sheer fact that he wanted to leave. You don't get to do that.
Right.
That the betrayal that he did to his unit, causing other soldiers to have to go and find him. I mean, he literally vacated his honor. And when you do that, there's a lot of individuals in the military that didn't care whether he came home or not. As sad as that is, he literally dishonored himself, and no one felt that anyone should sacrifice anything for him.
Right. Well, in the military, you have your own code of honor, right? And then it has a different, punishment for those type of things, right?
Correct.
So it's totally different matter of how things. It's surely totally different situation. Yeah. When did you think how about the same topic we're talking about here, the whole virginity thing here? Was that a time that was a thing here in the United States, or that you remember, that you know of, or?
Well, yeah.
When did that change? I'm sure it was much sooner than, Colombia is still kind of.
Well, I'll put it like this: when it comes to guys always wanting to have a intimate relationship with a female, that has never really changed throughout history. That's always been like what they've always strived for. But it was one of those things where guys were much well behaved, especially when you start thinking about earlier 40s, 50s. I'd have to say something changed within our culture, that divorce started going up. There's a lot more females that were getting pregnant outside of wedlock, whereas being pregnant out of wedlock was a big deal. It was definitely dishonorable to the family, and there was a lot of parents that would just disown their children.
But that was many, many, many years ago.
Well, yeah, you're literally talking about 30s, 40s, 50s,
right?
Where dishonoring your family could get you disowned.
Right.
Whether or not that's right or not is not really up for debate by me.
Exactly.
But it's it's not too long ago either, and it probably lines up realistically with 1951 as well.
1951. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how, like I said, for the longest time I was thinking that we in Colombia were a little bit far, and for some, but apparently not too far, not too far. And when it comes to certain beliefs, and definitely a lot of taboos out there. I mean, my mom was born in 1945, my grandmother 1920. And she so again, I mean, it's amazing, that. And I was able see, as a young child, I was always interested in what the adults had to say, as far as, because I like history, just like you like history. And history and literature were my two favorites. Well, one of my two favorites, because I also like biology too. So I always like school and stuff like that. So, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if you had the same experience I had, but I was, after the whole counting stories and translated it to different generations. That was a real thing where I grew up, actually.
Where you just stories from previous generations would just be passed down?
They were usually passed down orally. I mean, of course, if you had manuscripts or something written, of course, yeah, but it was a lot of, or like my grandmother will tell me, stories of things that happened. So it was very interesting, because for a young mind to be able to kind of, I guess it will be something like comparable to, like, if you were to have a World War II veteran or somebody, and sit his grandkid in the lab and like listen to the stories and kind of keep, this is amazing.
Oh, I listened to some of those World War II stories.
Did you?
So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Hearing it from a person who experienced it firsthand is definitely a different experience than hearing from a second.
Right.
Third.
Totally. So, my great grandfather. So my grandmother. Then I'm talking about my maternal family.
Mm-hmm.
His father. So it would have been my great grandfather. He died at age 104, I think, and I actually met him. And apparently he was outside in the backyard with in a chair drinking some whiskey or something, and he died there. That's a pretty happy.
I mean, it's not a bad way to go.
No, not at all. I mean, and the fact that he was. And same thing. No, my paternal grandmother, she was like 86 or so when she passed. So it was more, but again, really, natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always, but again, lots of good stories out there. And, I guess that's probably what the love of their writing and literature and things of that nature. But I definitely want to.
I mean, you got to figure storytelling, though, today versus storytelling 50 years ago, because everything is recorded. There's videos everywhere. Everyone's trying to be a TikTok champion and a YouTube warrior. So it's, when you start thinking about the storytelling,
Right.
detail, what did the rain smell like? What was the temperature? What were you dressed in? How did your clothes feel? Right. Actually getting into the detail to try to get someone there. Whereas today it's, hey, let me just show you this video and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, as opposed to
that's
the scripted
true.
portion.
That is true, necessarily. Well, the thing is, again, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So you're right, in different ways of communication, for sure. And that's another topic I would like to kind of explore with you. Not necessarily referent, a book, but I do want to talk to you probably next time about the styles of communication and how people communicate and stuff, because it's very, very interesting. And for me, it's always been interesting.
Oh, it is, especially if you understand it, you can take advantage of it.
Well, that's pretty good. For me, it's been always interesting, because it's definitely, I'm not going to say it's been a challenge necessarily, but to be able to communicate in two different cultures and do it effectively, though, it's been interesting. And to be able to understand and to thrive in it, I mean, because one thing is, people think that they can communicate all day long.
Mhm.
That they can talk, that they can speak. But what about actually being able to be effective at it, and so.
Well, I mean, the totally different conversation, yeah, but the nonverbal versus the verbal when it comes to the communication. So
Totally. But going back to the novel, what do you think about it? I mean, it's quite interesting. Huh?
it's definitely an interesting story, especially when you start relating it from 1951 Colombia to present day, pretty much anywhere. You still have a lot of the same principles you're dealing with. You have a lot of non-confrontational people, a lot of people who will not take something seriously. Just think about the see something, say something thing, just to get people to, hey, you see something that doesn't look right, bring it up. Let someone that's actually trained and knows how to deal with things make the determination. Whereas if you decide to not make the determination yourself, you could be wrong and it could be a big deal.
Yeah, you definitely have to put things in a balance, right? Well, like I said, we can definitely continue talking on communications and stuff like that for sure later on. But hey, I hope everybody liked this conversation we had on this topic. In fact, I will say if anybody has the opportunity to read the book or even just read a summary on it, I mean, especially if you are interested in the details on a few things out there, it's definitely a good book to read. Yeah.
Well, if you also have any other information or have any thoughts on where honor plays in society, by all means, put it in the comments, put in the messages, and maybe before we start the next episode, we can explore some of these.
That is true, or anything that you would like us to talk about for sure. Yeah, and then another thing I thought is going out there and then like setting your notifications so that way you don't miss any of our episodes, and then maybe yeah, but I'm trying to do one episode a week. So alrighty, well, thank you so much, Reid.
You're very welcome.
Alrighty, so
and God bless America. And support your troops.
Amen. Alrighty. I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yep. See you next week.
All right. Bye.